Duramax diesel, not Dirty Max, Clean Max. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Donnie Does It. We are not working on the 4Runner today. If you're new to the channel, feel free to check out some other videos. We're usually working on my 1985 Toyota 4Runner restoration project here. But today we're going to be working on my 2020 Silverado. It has the 3.0 or LM2 Duramax. It's a straight six. They call it the Baby Max. It takes a zero weight oil, but it does take a special zero weight 20 Dexos D or diesel, light duty diesel rated oil. There's a couple other options that you can get out there, but this is the one that I get from the dealership near me. We also have the AC Delco oil filter, as well as the fuel filter. So we're gonna show you guys how to save a little bit of money from going to the dealership and just doing this at home. So stay tuned. All right, so the first thing you're gonna wanna do is get the pickup up on some ramps. That way you can get a little bit of a tilt and it can drain the oil to the back of the pan, as well as, access to get your creeper under. I'm not gonna go through that process. Most of you should be able to do that. Our filler cap is right there. We're gonna pop that open here in a second so that we can get the oil to drain more easily. We're gonna bring you in under here, show you which bolts you need to take off, how to get the filter off, and do a nice, clean, safe oil change. So here we go. All right, we are under the truck. First things first, get yourself some gloves because you're gonna get a little bit of oil on you. Get yourself a good long oil pan. Nice thing about this is it only takes 7 quarts, so you don't need a very big oil pan. Our bolt is gonna be right here in front of the sway bar, or behind the sway bar, depending on which way you're looking at it. It's a 15mm nut. I'm gonna pop this open here first. This plug does have a rubber gasket on it, so it doesn't need to be tightened down too tight, just a little bit over finger tight. Like I said, it's gonna be just a little bit. See if we can get a quick draw here. We don't get a bunch of oil all over ourselves. I did pop the oil fill cap on the top side of the motor so we can get a nice stream going here, but here we go. Oops. Got a tiny little bit right there, but that's okay. It's crazy, this stuff is thin. 20 weight oil. Can't believe that that's a spec for a diesel, but it's a light duty diesel, so it's the one they called for. We'll let this drain for a little bit, and then we're going to go ahead and get our oil filter popped off, get it filled back up. Now there are several different types of oil filter removal tools. It's going to be more of a wrench style that you can grab on and turn with. This one you will clamp around it, and then as you spin it, will get a little bit tighter. Here's the same type of design that uses a chain strap that you can wrap around it and tighten. Some people even jam a screwdriver in there. I like to use these tools by MotiveX. They're a local company here in Washington, actually in Idaho, but here in Washington State, that open up and as you tighten will actually lock onto the filter, help you spin it off. Really great for nice tight filters that are kind of a bear to get off. I usually try to see if I can turn them by hand, but almost never can because whatever guy that was in there before thought he needed to get it as tight as he possibly could. So I'm gonna take one of these, get it on the bottom of the filter that's up in there, and loosen that up. Now there are several different types of oil filter removal tools. It's gonna be more of a wrench style that you can grab on and turn with. This one you will clamp around it, and then as you spin it, will get a little bit tighter. Here's the same type of design that uses a chain strap that you can wrap around it and tighten. Some people even jam a screwdriver in there. I like to use these tools by MotiveX. They're a local company here in Washington, actually in Idaho, but here in Washington State, that open up and as you tighten will actually lock onto the filter, help you spin it off. Really great for nice tight filters that are kind of a bear to get off. I usually try to see if I can turn them by hand, but almost never can because whatever the guy that was in there before thought he needed to get it as tight as he possibly could. So I'm gonna take one of these, get it on the bottom of the filter that's up in there, and loosen that up. So the engine is almost done draining. I'm actually really surprised that it didn't hit this sway bar right here, but we've got our tool on our oil filter right there. I'm just gonna go ahead and hook my 3/8 ratchet up to it. And as I spin this, it's gonna get the jaws in there and it's gonna start turning this oil filter for me. Just like that, nice and easy. Now that we've got it loose, spin it off by hand. There's gonna be some residual oil in here because it is hanging at the bottom of the engine oil pan, so it might leak down the sides. If not, that's great. Yeah, it's gonna leak down the sides on us. There we go. Let's go ahead and let that drain for just a second, and then we will finish unscrewing this. All right, good enough. Go ahead and get this unscrewed the rest of the way. Let this drop down into our pan. We're gonna keep letting that drain while we go ahead and get our new filter ready. Now I like to go ahead and date my filters, mostly just because of my older rigs that don't get driven a lot. This one's my daily, so it gets driven all the time. I've gone through 5,000 miles in about a month, so this will get changed pretty frequently. But for vehicles that they don't get changed that often, you want to try to make sure you do it about once a year. So go ahead and put the date on there, just so if you can't remember when the last time you did it was, you can take a look. Let's get this thing on there. So to prevent dry starts, now most vehicles have anti-drain back valves and different things like that now, but kind of an old way of thinking, and I'm going to keep doing it. We're going to go ahead and put some oil in the filter. That way when we screw it up, it's going to suck right out of this brand new oil first, and we don't have to worry about any sort of dry start. But let's get this in here. Probably only going to take about a half a quart here. One thing we also want to do is take our finger here, run it around this seal. That way we can get it tightened on there good without accidentally tearing or spinning the seal. Just get some new oil on there, just a little bit. Dab will do you. Don't need a whole bunch. All right, that's full. Let's get it back in the truck. All right, it was a little bit difficult for me to turn the oil filter on there while holding the camera, but we went ahead and snugged that up hand tight. I like to get it just about as tight as I can with my hand. That way I know it's not super over tightened, but you know, just about 2-3 fingers on there, get it snugged up good. Put the drain plug back in here as well. That has a rubber gasket around the drain plug, so you don't have to really wrench on that too hard either. Just put it on there with a wrench by hand and just snugged it up. So we're all good on the bottom, cleaned it up, and let's get some oil in this thing. All right, we are top side, got our oil cap off, still have it off. Now you can just grab your favorite funnel. I like to use this gigantic one so that I have less of a chance of spilling on the engine. Just start pouring the rest of our oil in. Man, this stuff is thin. Drink up, buttercup. You know you want it. Ah, she thirsty girl. Chevy did us a solid and just made it 7 whole quarts. So you don't have to pour them all in and then check the dipstick and then pour them in and check the dipstick because it calls for 6.5, 3, 4, 8, 9 quarts. Just 7. Man, when I was a kid, I don't think I even owned a funnel. Just poured half of it in the engine, half of it all over the engine, and then I just kind of hope for the best. As I've gotten older, I realized funnels are nice. Oh, see? I probably would have spilled on that one if I didn't have a funnel. All right, now grab yourself one of your wife's Starbucks coffee cups and slip it under there. no mess. Follow me for more tips. Let's get our plug back in. I like it when it's pointing right at me. I like this truck, so we're gonna dust her off. We're gonna shine her up. That looks nice, doesn't it? Look at that. And scene. Let's move on to the back of the truck. All right, we are now moving on to the fuel filter swap for this. Pretty big nut on that fuel filter housing. I like to use, again, MotiveX tools, not a channel sponsor or anything like that, but really cool little tools that are used specifically for like fluid changes and stuff like this. Underneath on our housing, we're gonna find a 36mm nut, and this just happens to be that exact size. So instead of having to use a crescent wrench, we are gonna be able to get that taken perfectly off. So, all right, we are now moving on to the fuel filter swap for this. Pretty big nut on that fuel filter housing. I like to use, again, MotiveX tools, not a channel sponsor or anything like that, but really cool little tools that are used specifically for like fluid changes and stuff like this. Underneath on our housing, we're gonna find a 36mm nut, and this just happens to be that exact size. So instead of having to use a crescent wrench, we are gonna be able to get that taken perfectly off. So, all right, so again, we've got our 36mm nut, 36mm socket. We are going to break this here. Now there is going to be some diesel fuel in here, so I've got this bucket. If you don't have a bucket, you should probably get a bucket if you're going to be doing these fluid changes on your own. Or just make a mess, and if you hate the earth, just let it go ahead and drain down onto Mother Nature. But we here at Donnie Does It Garage like to do things the clean way. All right. There it goes. You know, I'm really just catching this stuff in a pan because it's basically worth its weight in gold, so we'll just go ahead and pour this back in the truck whenever we're done. Just kidding. All right, in our box here, we are going to have a new filter, which we are going to put seal side down. You'll notice that this matches top to top. We are also going to have two little O-rings. We're going to replace this O-ring with the new one here, and then in just a minute I'm going to show you where this one goes. It's actually on the truck side of the housing. So let's get the old one popped out and the new one popped in. Let's just give them a little pop here. Come on. Ooh, that's on there good. Come to Papa. There it is. All right. Got a little bit of that good diesel in there. You just want to take a little sip. Oh, that's good stuff there. All right, so I like to get a nice clean towel. Get this thing nice and cleaned up on the inside for our new filter to go in. I'm gonna clean up the outside of the housing, even though it's in the elements, but so what? I like this truck, so I'm gonna keep it clean. Now we've done that, let's get a pick, get this old seal out of here. dieseled up. Get a little bit of lube on there. Just make it easier to go back into the housing. All right, now I'm going to show you where this little guy goes. So our tiny little blue seal is going to be on the inside of our housing here. Get a pick on that, get it popped off, and get the new one on, and then we're good to start reassembling. Just wanted to get a shot of our old filter up against our new filter. You can see it's about what it should look like when it comes out, and that's what it should look like going back in. All right, let's get this thing in here. I'm going to get it as far in as I can by hand first. And then once that gets snug by hand, we're gonna grab a wrench. Start bringing her on home. It's gonna come to a hard stop. Has a torque spec on there. We're just gonna get it just snug, and it's good to go. All right, let's go ahead and get in the pickup. We are going to hold this button down here to prime our fuel pump. You can hear it priming. While we're doing that, we can go ahead and come down here and check for any leaks. There's one more thing I wanted to touch on just before we finish up here. This is the water separator. I wanted to just go ahead and pop this off and show you how to take it out. I just did this. Okay, so it is got a little bit of water in it. It's winter time, so there's gonna be some water in here. And we can go ahead and pop this out. And you can see there's some water in here. It's winter time, so you want to do this probably about once a month. Go ahead and get the water out of there. During the winter time especially, it's important to do so. As you can see, I just did this, and there is still a little bit of water in here, so just be mindful of that. You don't want to get water in your fuel. Let's let that drain for a little bit. All right, that's the majority of the water there. You can see it is just water. It will not drain the fuel out of the filter, and this is just a really easily accessible little piece that you can do as some added maintenance for your pickup, especially in the winter time. Get that spun back on there. And then this just gets a little tiny bit of added pressure here, just perfect. And that's how you drain the water separator. All right, last thing we need to do is go ahead and start it. And reset our oil. Also going to go down to our fuel filter and reset that as well. Well, for whatever reason, I had to turn the truck off and back on again, but now the fuel filter life is at 100%. Our oil life is also at 100%. So we're done. All right, guys, if you've made it this far, thank you for watching and tuning in to another episode of Donnie Does It. I hope that can save you a couple of bucks and a little bit of time from going to the dealership on your 2020 LM2 3.0 Duramax oil and fuel filter changes. If you want to see more videos, particularly about our Toyota restoration or even about some Jeep stuff coming soon, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be updated on all the episodes from here on out. Thanks.